We had a lot of inspirations. Probably primarily you can guess the film and sort of the film noir idea. But since we're probably all mostly concerned about game design, I'll talk more about that. We're very influenced by big games, people like Area Code, Frank Lance at NYU. We were both, or at least I was a student of his, and Ed knows him as well. Particularly Area Code's game Identity, which has a lot of similarities to Casablanca, but is meant to be played all live. It takes place in one day at a conference or at a corporate get-together or something like that. And then, of course, Werewolf, we took a lot of inspiration from, sort of my favorite party game. But then as we started working, we sort of came across these other things. It actually started out very much as more of sort of a cell phone-based game that we wanted a lot of live interaction with. And as we were going, it sort of morphed into this idea of sort of a social network and a social networking site turned into a game. And so we were obviously very influenced by Facebook. And I'm in Like With You, which I don't know if any of y'all have heard about it. It's sort of this very strange online social networking dating site that is actually built as a game to drive people together, as it were. And I thought it was really, really fascinating how they took a game structure and were really drawing in a lot of people that really didn't even, I think, sort of think or realize that they were playing what was sort of a very complex, very interesting game. They mostly just thought that they were just meeting people and having fun. And so, all right, so during the design we had a few constraints that we put on ourselves. One was that it needed to have a lot of flexibility in the number of players and the number of time it took. We really, because this game is so big, we didn't want to have a game that just absolutely needed 100 players to play. That would be a nightmare to test and that sort of thing. But we also didn't want it to be so small that with social networking you need sort of a large group. So we had to sort of hit a right number of what was too large and what was too small. And then length of the game, just because whoever's playing this, obviously they're going to have different needs when it comes to time, especially because it's so big. We didn't want to have any elimination of players. Because this game is about meeting people and it's about socializing, we really didn't want anyone to feel like they were left out, that if you had a bad turn, you were gone, and suddenly all of these friends you had made, all these people you had met, you were out of the game. You had no more input. And then finally, we wanted to emphasize cooperative play, basically meaning that it's very difficult to play, like it's almost impossible to play this game on your own. You actually have to constantly work with people, both lying to them and telling them the truth, hopefully, to really get anything done. You can't do it on your own. And so we have a few short-term goals moving forward. Beyond what Ed talked about, we were coming up with ideas for powers, certain things that you earned them and you could use them on a social network, sort of like a bomb, where you could like throw it on somebody and all of their connections shattered, right? And they had to completely rebuild their network. After that, we want a ranking system so that if you're very good at the game, you sort of rank up to maybe like a lieutenant or something like that, and other people in the game can see you and maybe they have more trust in you. You're clearly a veteran. And then we have a lot of long-term goals. We'd really like to add voice, because I think, especially with something like socializing, the human voice is really valuable and actually changes the psychology of a player a great deal from when they're just reading text. And we really want to, at some point, bring the game into physical space. We really like the idea of sort of procedural flash mobs, where something happens in the game and we text everyone, and suddenly everyone is showing up in Washington Square Park wearing a red sweater, and no one knows what's going on, but everyone in that group knows what's going on because they're playing this game. And it's the idea that we wouldn't have to organize that. The game would see that the situation was sort of growing towards that, and it would just set it off, and we wouldn't really have to do any organization on our own. Yeah, and of course there are a lot of players. This takes a lot of players. We've had a couple of play tests, but it's always, as was said, you can always use more playtesters. So if any of y'all are interested, we'd be more than welcome. So yeah, do we have time for any questions at all? Hey, you want to
I have a question. So why did you decide to roll your own Facebook?
Well, that's actually what we decided was that we have we both just graduated from ITP, which is at NYU, and we had a friend of ours who had built sort of a small social networking site that focused mostly on cell phones. And so what we actually did is sort of licensed that from them and built this game on top of that. And that wasn't a minor sort of undertaking, but it did save us a lot of time in the end. Yes?
Is the game instanced? So if you have 1,000 players, but you only can have 130 players per game or whatnot, how do all those people play the game?
We've set up a turnkey system. So we copy the database over and you have your own game, which is another answer to that first question, is we want to control it, really. So yeah, you can have multiple games going on in different cities at the same time, and you all have your own little environment, your own sort of website, basically.
Yeah, I think actually maybe something that we forgot to mention was that at this point, sort of the onus to starting games is on people who are sort of coordinators, like at a university or something like that. Right now, players don't really start their own games. There's someone who wants to play this with a group of people, and they start one. So we sort of know we have enough players beforehand before we begin.
What are some of the strategies you would use in weeding out other players and determining their opinions? I understand it's largely a social thing.
Right.
Are there designers and developers who create events that, for each of the games, or is it largely just entirely player-to-player social interaction?
Yeah, actually one of the challenges that we really ran into is that unlike a social game like Mafia and something like that, where you're talking to someone, like I said, the voice, like when someone hears someone's voice, they really think that they can guess whether or not they're lying. When you're dealing with text, it's very obvious what information you do and do not have. We sort of tried to build in this idea of overlapping networks. So if Ed has a network that's clean and I do an alert and I find out that I have a network that's not clean, we can look at what people are common to our networks and then maybe figure it out that way. We wanted to keep it so that instead of us having to sort of create content constantly for players, that there was a way through socializing for them to always be able to figure it out.
I was wondering if you thought of maybe doing more with the in-game world, like maybe adding an economy or giving people jobs in it, and having the network, by whatever side you're on, gathers you additional resources or something, and also, maybe like corporate versus anarchist type environment.
Yeah. Well, we had early. Bill, do you want to talk about sort of some of our early ideas for?
Like what?
Well, one of our original ideas was this idea of we really were taking it very much from the film, and we had sort of two sides, the occupying force. Yeah, and we had this sort of citizenry that were neutrals, and they were like the candlestick maker and the shoe repairer and that sort of thing. And so we did have this little idea, and we eventually because this is something that we're sort of shooting from the hip on in a lot of ways, we decided to just sort of cut it down until everything that was absolutely necessary to what we thought was a game and what we thought was really thematically necessary, and the citizenry just didn't survive.
Last question.
You were saying that you didn't want people to be eliminated, so what happened when you were discovered?
We had a lot of trouble with that. The thing is that, go ahead.
You can come back in. Basically, if you feel like you're completely screwed as a member of the occupation, your credibility is gone, there's no way of getting it back, you can quietly disappear. You contact the game administration, we give you a new identity, and you come back in and start making friends again. That's what happens.
We have a limit of that to once a game, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Oh, so-
Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.